from Minnesota, where the harvest is going well. Actually, it's going really, really well. It's like 60 some degrees, and so this is really cool weather for us. Warm weather, cool weather. Kind of a weird thing to be talking about cultivating when we're in the midst of harvest. But this week I'm going to talk about cultivating gratitude. And cultivating takes on different roles, totally depending on different soils. So in the farming community, we use field cultivators. They work the ground and get the soil ready to plant. And for most of us, cultivating means kind of like weeding. Cultivating also works up the ground to loosen the weeds and aerate the soil. And that gives plants room to grow and expand, and then they don't have to compete with the weeds. And the weeds tend to take the nutrients out of the ground. According to Farmer Jim, my husband, cultivating also enables the soil to take on new growth. While you disturb the weeds that have grown and begin to establish themselves, you also introduce air into your soil. Air is needed for germination. And think of the fires that we've had in the west parts of the states. Without the air, that fire would have greatly diminished. Fire rejuvenates with air. Air also moves dirt around. Anyone with allergies understands that. A windy day moves pollen. It also moves other stuff. So cultivating introduces air into the soil, and that helps growth. So cultivating also moves around the nutrients in your soil. Compaction settles things. So look at your lawn, and if anyone walks in a path in your lawn, eventually the grass is stepped down and the dirt will get hard, and compaction will affect the way your lawn looks. When the engineers are going to make roads, they use big compactors to harden pack the surface. Things don't grow when it's hard packed. Water runs off compacted soil. Minerals and vitamins get hung up in clumps, and they're useless when your soil is compact. There's many different kinds of cultivators. One of ours is called a field cultivator. It has long steel fingers that it reaches down into the ground and uproots everything. When I was a kid, my dad used a row cultivator, and you drove through the bean or the cornfields, and it was about 18 inches high, and then that would rip up everything in between your rows so that there was no competition for the plants. Well, now in the ground there are nutrients, and if the weeds are growing close to the crop that you plant, then those weeds will take the nutrients away from your plants. Weeds grow incredibly, and then they choke out what you want to grow. And I have a wheel hoe as a decoration for my garden. Wheel hoe are push cultivators, and they were from the early 1900s. I'm really not that old, but I found it at the farm. And it's just kind of a neat thing to look at, because it really shows you how you get underneath the ground, work it up, disturb the roots, and aerate the soil. So what does this have to do with gratitude? Well, gratitude is one of the best crops we can plant, but there's other things that will germinate and start to grow in a way that grows alongside our gratitude. So for us to grow gratitude and let it produce in our lives as the fruits of the Spirit will, there are sometimes we have to do things to help it grow to be productive. So look at your life. Right alongside gratitude in the garden of your heart are things that need to be cultivated. So the soil of your roots need to be aerated and stirred up so that gratitude has room to spread its roots. Roots need room. A corn plant, when it's planted, could have about 3 inches of plant above the ground, but under the ground it will have 3 times that. Our hearts are full of gratitude, but often are choked out by other things growing that take away the nourishment and get in the way of our gratitude growing those nice, big, long roots. Remember when we talked about cultivating the crop? Well, it's the same way with cultivating gratitude inside our hearts. Air will compare to the Holy Spirit. The word rosh in Hebrew is translated breath or wind. The Holy Spirit moves within our hearts to get a movement in the soil of our soul. The Holy Spirit convicts us and transforms us, and just like air gives life to an almost dead campfire, the Holy Spirit will aerate our soul, revive not just our gratitude, but our desire to express that gratitude. So our soul soil needs nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. Now, when I was a kid, I had to take vitamins, and I made my kids take vitamins, except when my kids were taking vitamins, they were a lot more creative, they were a lot tastier, they looked like bears and dinosaurs. Vitamins alone, however, don't do much if you don't have good eating habits. So, taking 3 vitamins a day won't counter a bag of Doritos, Mountain Dew, and Long Johns. The soil of our hearts are just like our bodies, quality in, quality out. Minerals and vitamins need to be stirred up by the Holy Spirit and get some sustenance to them. So the Bible, reading the Bible studies, spending time listening to God speaking are things that you can do to build the nutrients up in the heart of or the soil of your heart. Then you have something to cultivate and to stir up. If your heart is the same as it's been since 1987, it's probably compacted and so hardened that everything just sits on the top or runs off the sides. Nothing's going through. It's not going to get cultivated, and it's not going to do anyone any good. The Bible isn't necessarily a handbook for farming, but there are many instances we find alluding to cultivating. Isaiah 7:25 is one. As for all the hills once cultivated by the hoe, you will no longer go there for fear of briars and thorns. We all know briars and thorns can take over. And then in Ecclesiastes 5:9, but this is gain for the land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. So this verse reminds us that if we don't cultivate, things will go bad in a hurry. The other verse tells us even the actions of a wise king knows how important it is to cultivate the land. Just as good things grow in good soil that you have in your heart, there are things that creep up and look good. They look like flowers. I had some flowers in my garden, and I thought they were really cool. Here I am gardening, and it looks good, and then my mother came out. She told me they weren't flowers, they were actually weeds, and it was called nightshade, and it was a beautiful blue-purple flower and these cute little red berries. However, they grow like crazy, and they are deadly to animals. Well, still, many years later, I am pulling those things out from all around the farm because they grow, they spread, they take root anywhere. The nutrition that feeds the good things in our heart also grows other things. So gratitude can often be found in the same field as comparison or jealousy and covetousness and discontent. Instead of being grateful for what I have, I look at someone else, what they have, and think, well, I would be a lot happier if I had that. I love my Jeep. And then I see someone with a Grand Cherokee. It's bigger, and it's wider, and it has a hitch. I could do a lot more with a hitch. And then I think, the more I think about it, the gratitude starts flowing out of my heart, and that creeping Charlie and Black Nightshade find their way into the edge of my garden and slowly start inching their way into I think then they belong there. It's time to get the weed hoe out. I must be careful that my heart also doesn't get compacted by the cruelty of others. And it does happen. People will do things that hurt us. Hurt compacts as we push it down away from where others can see. Cultivating helps us to loosen that hurt and to be thankful, act grateful for what God has given and not what others have hurt or attempted to take away. Our focus needs to be on gratefulness, and that will help us see where to cultivate so we don't dig up things that are valuable, only uproot the things that don't belong in our hearts. So how do we cultivate? With simple reminders. Now, I know you have these things. They're called sticky notes. Some of you have awesome junk drawers. They have everything under the sun in them. So go dig in them, find a sticky note, find a piece of paper, find a napkin, double stick tape, find a magnet, anything you can write on, and I want you to write ho, ho, ho. And now it's not Christmas, it's the H-O-E, H-O-E, H-O-E. We do well with reminders. I do better with reminders. Many years ago, we had some people stay at our house, and she put butterflies on the mirror in my bathroom, on a window, and then on the front door. And every time I see them, and I have left them there all these years, I'm reminded. It was a very sad time. We buried her sister and our close friend, but it's a reminder for me to see the beauty even through things that hurt our hearts. So the H is going to represent hoe the heart. Loosen the dirt, get rid of the weeds, aerate the soil, let the Holy Spirit work in your heart. The O is going to represent own the moment. Gratitude is a lifestyle, but it begins in the moment. For the moment, be grateful. For a moment, say and express your gratitude. For a moment, give God a prayer of gratitude. It only takes a moment. The E is going to represent everyone you meet today. Treat with gratitude gloves. Now, we are encountering winter up here. Eventually, we know it's going to be coming. Gloves are important. So I have work gloves that I wear out in the barns and things, and then I have driving gloves, and I have gloves to throw the dog the ball, and I have dress gloves. I need to maybe have a pair of gratitude gloves. To be thankful when I put on those gloves and treat others the way that I am truly thankful for them. To treat them with gratitude means to protect their heart, to leave them with the love of Jesus dripping off their heart and a smile on their face. So hoe, H-O-E, cultivate gratitude and work on getting the weeds or those that look like flowers but are just taking up room in your heart, and let gratitude have a great place to grow in your life. Have a good week and get those sticky notes all around your house.